Now, I lived a couple places in Barbados, but I grew up in Paynes Bay. This story is dedicated to Pawnie. I've written a couple stories about people in Paynes Bay. Some they might not want read. But Pawnie died recently. He was a man that used to walk about barefoot. And I've known him to tumble down a couple times drinking rum. He did odd jobs like cleaning fish or cleaning the grease trap for you. But I'll tell you something. His energy was good and his spirit was nice. And I was inspired to write a story about him. I wrote this a couple years ago. Can't even remember when. But now that he has passed, I feel that it should at least be up somewhere. So this story is dedicated to Pawnie. Drop in Pawnie. It was a bright, beautiful, typical Bajan morning, and I was turning to drive up Holders Hill. There's no bus running up and down that hill, yet many people live up there. So there are always people at the bottom of the hill in Paynes Bay hoping to get a ride up so they do not have to take that 15-minute walk in the sun. Recently, this sun has been quite rude, and I don't blame them, though I think that is risky behavior. For that reason, I usually do not look left or right when I turn to go up that hill, because I have a truck and people always want to hop on the back. But I also have small children, and in these times, dropping strangers is just not safe. Though I do not turn my head and look directly, I can still see both sides of the road, and I noticed Pawnie on my left. Don't ask me where you get that name from. He was stumming for a lift up the hill. Bajans call a lift or a ride a drop, so Pawnie was looking for a drop up the road. In the next 4 seconds, I had 1,000 thoughts because I was not sure if I should give him a ride or not. I wanted to, though, because I'm a vibe person. He always gave me good vibes. A mannerly drunk had to have a story, and he used to work and clean fish sometimes. I never saw him begging. He was not a paro. Should I just beat and speed along, or actually give him the drop up? I almost wanted to pause and tell a lie like I wasn't going all the way up so his feelings wouldn't be hurt, but that is not me. We did indeed always speak to each other. He did indeed know Selwyn's big daughter. But I knew all the Paynes Bay men, and though Pawnie was one of my favorites, that did not mean I would suddenly become the Holders Hill taxi service. Still, I wanted to drop him. But come on, Pawnie had indeed rolled down the hill in Chapel Gap one time I knew about for sure, drunk as a skunk, and I didn't want no musty people in my truck. But generally, he wasn't musty. His feet always had that super clean look that men who spent time in the sea had. His skin smooth and brown and shiny, weathered like leather. I needed to make a decision because he saw me now. Oh, loss. I decided to stop because of Uncle Harry. My great Uncle Harry was a drinker. That is what I remember most about him. A well-dressed, functioning alcoholic. I remember his pretty button-down shirts and clean like colored slacks, and that he always had his white hair in a low cut. He was like the dark-skinned member that the merry men never had. I think the way he looked and his age was all I needed to feel like he must be deserving of respect, whether I knew anything about him or not. He was always well put together. I remember how one time I heard Uncle Harry had a girlfriend, and our childhood laughter chimed through the wind at the idea of an old lady that lived with him being called a girl. As far as we know, he had no children. He was old my whole life. His hands shook sometimes. I believe he was a carpenter when he was younger, and he used to call me by my younger sister's name most of the time. He knew my name, though. After all, I was the one named after Dad. Uncle Harry never once asked me how I was doing, but I know he wished us well. What do old men know about the minds of a girl child anyway? Maybe so much is all too much for an old man to take on. Maybe old men have the right to chill and drink something and have a sea bath and not ask. Maybe I was wrong to wish he did. Now that he's gone, I am quite comfortable with all the maybes that my uncle presented. I'm not sure if he was a father figure to my dad, who whose father died when he was 12, or if my father was a son figure to him. But I was glad that he and my father had a good relationship, and I was not happy when he died. I wish he would have forever been old but strong, walking down the hill for a sea bath, stopping by the shop for Dad's fried fish, saltfish gravy, most likely snapper with far too much pepper or jerk seasoning, and cornmeal or pigtail dotted breadfruit cuckoo, served with hot pickled cucumbers sliced so thin you could watch TV through them. He would sit drinking rum out of the smooth bottom Mount Gay rum glasses that spun around, chunks of ice that was broken with a pick dancing inside them and creating little mirages where the water from the melted ice and the rum met. When Uncle Harry died, I did not attend the funeral. I never feel like the dead need me in their space. So if I don't feel like I need to be in the dead's presence for closure or whatever, I don't go. I kind of detest the fact that some people spend money to buy clothes to wear to your funeral, but never spend time to know and love you while you're still alive. So even with people that I hardly talk to, I just wish them the most while they're here and call their family when they're gone. I don't call my dad too often, but I called when Uncle Harry passed. The instant that he was unable to care for himself, he lost his will to live, and I respected that. R.I.P. Uncle. Anyways, after the funeral, my brother and I were talking. He, being a Paynes Bay young man, meant he was privy to information that I was not many times, and while some of the people in the neighborhood would pass me straight, everyone would hail Sammy. The society we live in has a passive-aggressive gender war going on. Me? I speak to who speaks to me, and if I pass in close to someone, they could choose to be a bigger pig than the one Carlton supermarket used to have on the billboard. I would still say morning. I am digressing, sorry. So when I wanted to know about the funeral, I asked Sam. Sammy said the funeral was the usual funeral, burst with people, men gone up the hill to drink while the sermon's still going on. Our father was stressed because he paid for and arranged it. What stayed with me, though, was how Sam said Pawnie. Sam liked Pawnie, too. Sam said Pawnie's hands were shaking, but he stood for 5 minutes getting his hand not to shake, to write his name in the book to show his respects to Uncle Harry. Sam said the writing was almost illegible. It took a big effort for him to do that. So I stopped and let Pawnie get in my truck. How could I not drop him? As I asked him how he was doing and we drove up the hill on that sunny day, I also remembered how my mother adopted a little mad mix-up dog named Sprite from a little girl, and Sprite sprinted into the road and dead. Foolish. Pawnie, who had never touched me before, saw me walking up the hill and touched my shoulder. This jumped the shit out of me. You have to be very wary with this type of man, but I played cool. He said, listen, the dog, I'm sorry to tell you, the little dog dead. And I had already heard, but I said thanks. And I knew he cared. While we drove, he told me he was going to look for, which means visit, a lady because her brother died. It was a man that he had grown up with, who had passed away suddenly. The man was only in his late 50s. He was going to make sure that she was okay. Not that he could fix it if she wasn't, but because he cared. Pawnie seemed like he could have told me so many things, but the ride was very short, and when I let him out by Corbin's shop, I wished him the best day and gave myself a gold star for giving him that ride. Next time, I will find out how he got his name.